All right. Well, good morning and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants event. My name is Joe Braczkowski, and I'll be your host for today. Huge Happy New Year to everybody who's joining in for the first time in 2021. I believe this is our third event of the new year, so it's great to be back in action and hosting classrooms from across North America and beyond. Really excited for today's event. Today we are connecting with Alex Braczkowski. Alex is a big cat biologist, originally from South Africa. He's researched lions, caracal, and leopards across South Africa and Uganda, and filmed other big cats across 3 continents. So he graduated from the University of Oxford, and since leaving Oxford, he's worked closely with Steve Winter, another National Geographic photographer, working on different stories, whether it's leopards, jaguars, and lions. Alex also filmed an amazing National Geographic documentary on the incredible tree climbing lions of southwestern Uganda. So if anybody has Disney Plus, I suggest you check out that documentary after today's event to see a little bit of Alex in action. And Alex recently completed his PhD at the University of Queensland in Australia. We've got Alex joining us live from Australia very early in the morning. Alex, thank you so much for getting up for us and sharing the incredible work you do.
Thanks, Joe. Hi, everyone. I don't know if I can see anybody, if there's like groups or anything, but yeah, it's exciting to be here. And yeah, today we're going to be talking about big cats, why we need to save them, and also some of the cool ways that we photograph and film them.
All right. Awesome, Alex. If you want to hit full screen on your end, I think it'll be ready to go.
Awesome. All right. Cool. So my name's Alex Braczkowski, and I'm a big cat biologist. And I've been working on...
Sorry, Alex, to derail you so quickly. It didn't go full screen for us on our end.
Oh. Okay, here we go. Share screen.
We got the kind of presenter view as if you were working on it. There we go. We got it.
All right. Cool. Sorry. So, yeah, so I've been working on big cats, all sorts of big cats for over 10 years now. I started in 2008 on these guys. These are African leopards. So I was working on leopards that actually lived around my university campus in South Africa, in a place called George. Very small leopards, about half the size anywhere else in the world. And then shortly thereafter, I started working with this man. After I finished my master's, also on leopards, I started learning a little bit about photography and film. And I helped Steve Winter, who's been shooting for National Geographic magazine for about 30 years, on the biggest ever worldwide leopard story. And we traveled from India to South Africa to Sri Lanka, documenting what a lot of people don't know is actually the most threatened but also most widely distributed big cat. So why are big cats important, and why are they so interesting to me? Well, the interesting thing with leopards, this is a photograph that Steve took in downtown Mumbai. This is in a little national park that's about 110 square kilometers in size. It's the Sanjay Gandhi National Park, and it's in the middle of one of the largest cities in the world. But leopards are actually super important because they are what we call top order predators. And what that means is that they have important ways of limiting and controlling the animals that live in the ecosystem. So if anybody's heard of a food pyramid or a trophic web, big cats like lions, jaguars, and tigers, they're right at the top. There's not a lot of them, but they're incredibly important because they eat the other animals. And just by moving in a landscape, they control the way that other animals move. This is a lion nest that I took with a camera trap in Uganda. And that's another one over there in Uganda also. Now, we did some research, and we actually found that big cats can have positive impacts on us people. And talking about the leopards that live in Mumbai again, there is a big stray dog problem in that part of the world. There's literally thousands and thousands and thousands of stray dogs that walk around the city because of all the rubbish that's in certain parts of the city. And there's not enough people to actually clean all that garbage up. So there's this massive amount of stray dogs, and the dogs actually bite people. They bite about 75,000 people in the city every year. Now, the interesting thing is that the leopards eat these stray dogs. They eat about anything from about 800 to 1,500 of these stray dogs. And in the process, they stop those dogs from biting people. And what we actually calculated in our research, which was published in this scientific paper, when everybody here grows up, and they decide to do science, you'll be doing scientific papers and scientific studies, and you'll be publishing in journals like this. But basically what we found is that these leopards probably every year save about 90 human lives through stopping rabies and through limiting those bites. So that's just one example of why these predators are incredibly important. They're obviously also incredibly important to tourism, to human cultures. I mean, if we think about every time we go to the shops and buy cereal, how many times do we see a big cat on the box of cereal? Or if we see a big cat on our favorite soccer team or our favorite rugby team or football team? You know, big cats are everywhere. So they are ingrained in our culture, and they've been part of everything that we're a part of for thousands of years. And I wanted to play you a recording of a big cat, one of my favorites. And this is one of those Mumbai leopards walking next to the city, actually looking out for either a deer or maybe a dog. So that's what they look like. They're pretty cool. And here you can actually see, so this is the area, this red area is the area where those leopards actually are potentially hunting those stray dogs. And these graphs show that if you lose leopards, you actually will have a lot more bites by the dogs, and also it'll cost you a lot of money to actually manage those dogs. So again, leopards very important in that ecosystem. But let's talk about film and photography and why I think that is an important way of showing how important these cats are to the world. So I want to talk about a very special population of lions that I studied as part of my doctorate for when I was at university. And it's a population of lions that lives in Africa, in a place called Uganda, right in the southwest of the country on the Congo border. So this is actually an area where two countries are on the edge of each other. And there's a population of lions that moves between them. Now, these lions are very interesting because they climb trees. And here is a little video of the national park where I was, the Queen Elizabeth National Park. And you can actually see the lions there in the tree. This is what the park looks like. There's elephants there. There are these big, beautiful rolling hills with plains and wetlands. You've got a whole bunch of pelicans in there and these ancient volcanic lakes. And I was very lucky, and I spent about 1 year studying and filming these lions in this national park. And there's the little car that I used to do that. I would film out of that car. I would sleep in that car. And I would do all of my science out of that car. It's very tiny, but it was very efficient, and I could get very close to the lions with that. So that's what I was doing. And what I was basically trying to look at was, how do I get some really special images that no one's ever seen before of these incredible cats that have this weird culture of climbing trees. Joe, am I still with everybody? I can't really, I don't know if everybody can hear me, and if.
Oh yeah, Alex, you're loud and clear. Everything's great. Okay,
awesome. Great. So when I got to the national park, there was only one National Geographic photographer who's really incredible. His name's Joel Sartore, and he was the only one who'd gotten images of these tree climbing lions in a really special way, and he'd lit them with these big spotlights. And he'd gotten some really incredible images of these lions that live in these trees. Here's a couple of images that I wanted to share that Joel took, and I thought he did an incredible job. So in the north of the park, they climb these euphorbia trees, and in the south, they climb those big fig trees. Joel was also the first photographer, to my knowledge, that actually tried to use a little buggy cam on lions. I know Nick Nichols, some people might have seen his images, used like a lion tank. But this is an image of one of the first lion buggies, I think, to my knowledge, of where he actually tried to get some cool images of these cats. I'm going to show you a little video. I'm going to just sort of fast forward to show you what the habitat looks like where these lions climb. It's about 2 minutes long.
Prides often break into smaller groups to hunt or rest.
So the cool thing about these lions is that not only do they climb those big fig trees that we saw in that little video, but they also climb these euphorbias. And there's me filming.
Alex,
there is Mom.
Jumping in again. Is the video in a different window or is it in the presentation?
No, it's in the presentation.
Okay. Do you want to try clicking back and clicking on it again? I don't know if maybe it's just the screen share paused on your side, but we're still on the image of the Joel's shot from the lion in the tree.
Oh, that's weird. Okay, let's try again. I'm just going to run through this because we are very quickly running out of time.
Oh, lots of time, Alex. If you go a few minutes over, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I just got a lot of slides. What about now?
Yeah.
Can you see the video?
Yeah, it's playing now.
Okay.
They're getting one of their first climbing lessons from their mum.
So the lions are climbing from a very young age, and that is Mom, and she is teaching these little baby cubs, which are about 6 to 7 weeks old, how do we climb? And there they are right there. And you can see they're kind of nervous, and they don't really know what to do. And I don't think Mom really knows what to do.
Oh man, he just fell out of the tree. He fell out of the tree. Oh man. Oh. This guy's going. Oh.
That's pretty cool. Can you see that, Joe? Are we back onto the slides?
Yeah, we're back on the slides.
Cool. So there you can see a lion that's a little bit older. That one's probably about 5 months old, maybe a little bit older, 6 months old. And he is in what looks like these big cactus trees. Now, they're not actually cactus trees. What they are euphorbias. The difference between a euphorbia is that it has a milky latex, and a cactus does not have a milky latex. It's just got this like kind of slimy juice. But anyway, the interesting thing here is that these euphorbias, the milky latex is actually one of the most poisonous substances on earth. Yet somehow, when the lions climb the trees, they don't seem to scratch the tree enough so that this stuff gets all over their paws. So it doesn't really seem to affect them. And here are just a couple of images that I took that I thought were kind of cool. But I wanted to get closer to the lions. I wanted to kind of figure out, well, how can I show these things in a way that nobody's seen them before? So I used, can we interact with the people that I can see? Can I ask some questions, or how does this work?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so can anybody here tell me any ideas on how they would photograph and film these lions if they wanted to do something a little bit different? And I've kind of given it away here, but I want to get some ideas from some people in the class. So anybody?
Miss McGinnis's crew in. Do you guys have an idea how you would film them in the trees?
I would try using a drone.
Okay, yeah, that's exactly it. Anybody else? Anybody? Any other ideas?
Mr. B's class. Mr. B's class. Do you guys have any ideas? How would you film them?
I would get up close to the camera, and I would see how close we could get and see.
Yeah, so what I did was I actually got one of those cars that you can see in this this presentation, the little, it's called the Toyota Hiace. And what I did is I actually sat on top of the roof and slowly conditioned the lions to get sort of used to me. And in that way, I could get a little bit closer. I could use a wide angle lens to show what the lions look like in the trees. And yeah, so it was a big learning experience, but something that was pretty cool. So let's continue. I'm going to show you a couple more images and then we can talk more. So with the drone, these are the kinds of, can you see that, Joe?
I think you'll have to reshare, Alex. For some reason, it doesn't like the transition from slide to video.
Sorry, that's okay. I'm sorry, everybody. This is, I'll try not to show more videos. I think this is the last one anyway. All right. All right. So this is what one male lion in the south looks like. His name is Jacob, and he is pretty cool because he's a big lion that climbs these big fig trees. And these are some of the images that I got of Jacob with the drone. I had to get special permission, I had to get a special permit, and I had to kind of teach the lions that this drone is nothing that they should worry about. And one of the main reasons is also it's a very tiny drone. It's about sort of that big, you can see, relative to the lion's head. And eventually the lions kind of saw this thing as, well, this is kind of just like a big bird. So that was pretty cool. And this is what a couple of the images look like. So that's Jacob, again, in the trees at sunset. That's him with his sister below him. That's Jacob standing up. That's Jacob's two sisters, Jessica and Julia. And I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to reshare this again. This is the last video. So here you can kind of see we did a little pan just to show what the lions look like when they're in the tree. Here's Jacob jumping over his sister, which is pretty cool. And this is something that no one had ever seen before or tried to do with a population of lions that are doing something with a weird behavior. What I also try to do when I was over there, I used camera traps. And this is something that I learned from Steve Winter, where you basically put a camera in the field. You put it in the forest or in the savannah where the lions walk, and you connect it to what you call an infrared sensor. And it's an invisible beam. The lions walk past it, they trip it, and then you get this kind of image. And the reason that it's gold is because you have two flashes that are connected to the camera, and these are the kinds of images that I was able to get. And they're kind of cool because they show the cat at a very low eye level. Here are a couple of the images from the top of the car where I could actually drive into the tree with the lions, again, slowly conditioning them to it. And you can see on one day when the lions actually ate a big water buck and they were in a very relaxed and chilled mood, I could get this close to them and again shoot with a wide angle lens. Here there's actually 5 lions all together in a tree. I think there's 4, and then to the top left, there's one hiding out somewhere. This is again, I used a little bit of light onto his face just to make him look really cool. And here was I right below them. This was really cool. There he is again, just below a big euphorbia tree in the north, just before the sunset. Again, sunset, kind of getting some images with a wide angle lens. And I think this was pretty close. That was probably way too close, but yeah, this was really cool. So I want to talk a little bit for a very short time about how you, as a young person, I don't know what our age range here is, Joe, but I think these from the people that I saw in the crowd, maybe 12, 13, 10 years old. So you're all the up and coming next generation. You are going to be the next big cat biologists and next wildlife cinematographers and photographers of tomorrow. So I want you to know that the most important thing that you can do if you want to get started is that you do not need fancy equipment. You do not need the best equipment. You do not need the best lenses. You do not need the best drones. You can do this for very cheap. Now, the important thing with photography is that it's all about story. So you can tell a story about the most endangered butterfly in your town. You can tell a story about, the raccoon population that comes and raids your dustbins. I think a lot of people think that you need to fly to Africa, you need to fly to India, you need to fly to all these areas where these big cats live in order to be able to do something really cool. And actually, some of the coolest National Geographic magazine stories that have been done over the last 20 years are on smaller animals and on animals that live in our backyards, on the insects that live in our backyards. And the 3 photos that you see over here of that little Fujifilm, that little drone, and that little tripod, that whole setup costs less than $500. So you can do it, and also look to buy secondhand equipment. So that's the coolest thing. And also use your iPhone. Use the little thing that I have right over here. Talk to the camera. The cameras on these new little cell phones, all do 4K video. So in terms of telling a story, if you ever want to tell a good story, you don't need that fancy equipment. You can even use your cell phone to do that. Now, for the last 2 minutes, I'm going to talk a little bit about the importance of science, finding out things about these big cats that we love and why that is important in the 21st century when we as humans are changing the world at unprecedented rates. So this is me in a place called Ishasha. This is where Jacob lives, that lion that you saw, and these fine men. That's Sam Isoke, and that is a member of the Ugandan Wildlife Authority. He's a soldier that was a ranger that was protecting us on this particular day, and we were actually setting up those little devices, which are called camera traps, and they help us to count how many big cats are in the landscape. So we basically put these camera traps all around the landscape, all about 100 of them, and we're basically trying to figure out, okay, well, based on the unique markings of their faces and the spots of leopards and hyenas, hyenas are not big cats, but we're basically trying to figure out how many of these animals there are in the landscape. And a lot of people ask me, why is it important to figure out how many of these cats there are? And the reason is because if you can't figure out how many you have, how are you supposed to save them? And if you can't track their populations over time, so compare how numbers change from 1 year to year 2 to year 3 to year 4, it becomes very difficult to manage them. And it's difficult to understand if they're breeding, if they're leaving the area. I said that the Congo is right over there, so are they going to the Congo? Are they coming back? Those are the kinds of things. And the interesting thing with lions is that you can identify them through the whisker spots. So just like with your domestic cat at home, the way that the whiskers are positioned on the cat's face, you can actually differentiate lions like that. And that's exactly what I did. And from that, driving around the area where I was working for 3 months, nearly 9,000 kilometers, we identified about 35 different lions and about 160 times. And from that, using some pretty fancy mathematics, we calculated that there was probably about 70, 75 lions left in this 2,500 square kilometer park, which is not a lot of lions. And one of the big reasons why there are not many in this part of the world and in many places in Africa is because lions, unfortunately, like us, a lot of the people that eat meat in the crowd, also eat meat. And they also like to eat meat that we like to eat. And that may be sheep, goats, and cattle. And the reason for that is because they are easy to catch. And also, a lot of the national parks where lions live, unfortunately, there is some poaching that happens in those areas, and there's less natural food, and the lions go out of the parks looking for food, and they come into maybe a big herd of 100 cattle, 20 cattle, 30 cattle that are sitting in a protective boma. The lions jump in there. It's like, hey, this is a free hamburger. It doesn't even run away from me. And it's like, this is easy to eat. And boom, you have a problem. People get angry. People don't necessarily have a lot of money in these areas. It means a lot to lose a cow. And then you have this conflict. So this image I took of the Uganda Wildlife Authority with Ludwig Schiefert, who is a scientist in that area, actually putting a satellite collar on a lion's neck to actually, here again, the same thing, putting a satellite collar on the lion's neck to see where the lions are walking and if they are actually going into the villages to eat cows. So this is another thing that I was doing, is actually photographing that story of trying to see, how lions are living with people in these landscapes. And that is me. We are at 24 minutes, which means that we have like 15 to 20 minutes to talk, jump around, ask questions, talk techniques. I'm excited. Thank you, Joe. I'm sorry that was so long. And but I wanted to rush through that.
No, nothing to apologize at all, Alex. That was a great presentation. Thank you so much for sharing that with the classrooms today. So shout out to the classrooms joining us and the students on YouTube. Now's the time. Use that chat sidebar to send in some questions. Even if you put one in already, put it in again just so we see them nice and fresh at the front. And let's start meeting some of our groups. So we've got some live camera groups with us too. They are in a variety of in-school or virtual learning. So let's get started here. Let's head to Alberta. Mrs. Holden's crew is hanging out with us, and I'm sure they've got some questions for us.
Oh, they sure do. We really enjoyed that. Thank you. Leah and some of the other kids are wondering how you get so close. And you said that you use a drone and that you teach the animals. How do you go about teaching them to let you get so close?
You basically just got to watch the behavior. And with lions, you've got a couple of sort of key warning signs that they'll give you. I think the most important thing also to note is that, as a wildlife cameraman and as a doctor of big cats, I've done science and research on leopards, lions, hyenas, jaguars. The only one that I haven't worked on so far of the bigger ones is the tiger, mountain lion, and snow leopard. But I've sort of been doing this as a scientist full time for my whole life for the last sort of 12 years. And that means that one of the big things is you have to get permission, not only to work on them, but also to film them. And with things like drones and getting close to them in the trees, as a cameraman, I have to get special permission from the local park service. And when you do that, once you have that special permission and you have those special permits, then you can sort of look at the behavioral cues. And all animals will give you behavioral cues. And with lions, it'll be the tail. They'll flick their tail. They'll drop their head. You'll see the eyes actually sort of focus in on you. And they might growl at you, they might snarl, and then they'll actually rush you and they'll charge you as a sort of warning saying, go away, get back, don't do that to me. So the moment we start to see any of those things, especially the tail, is sort of just back off. So always consider the safety of the animal and sort of the behavior of the animal. And that's sort of what we always do when I'm working in these areas. I'm actually going back to Uganda in a week to film the sequel to this TV show. So that's exciting.
All right, very cool. Great questions. So there's a couple of questions coming online about the names of the lions. They noticed Jacob and his sisters all started with the J. Is there a reason why?
It's just because Mustafa, the main researcher in that southern area, he just named all the lions. And so there was another 3 lions, Sultan, Sura, and Saleh. They were also all 3 with the S. I don't know, he just named them. I think Jacqueline, Jessica, and Julia. I don't know why he likes J and S, but yeah.
All right, fair enough. Ms. McInnes's crew, 4th graders hanging out with us from Maine. How are we doing today?
Good.
Hey,
Why?
everyone.
Hi. Why do tree climbing cats? Why do they climb trees and regular lions don't?
So there's sort of 3 ideas around this. And the first one is that they might be escaping like flies, biting their faces. And I've seen that. I've seen in that part of the world, tsetse flies biting the lion's nose and sort of face. There's a lot of flies there. So that's option 1. I don't know. You give me an answer. What do you think? What's your hypothesis? So in science, whenever we think as scientists something is true, we say that it is a hypothesis. It is a prediction. So what's your prediction? What do you think is the reason?
Why do you think they go in the trees?
I don't know.
Do you think maybe it's cooler? Put on the spot.
That's okay. Is there somebody else in the class that wants to throw it out?
Don't worry. There's no wrong answer. There's no wrong answer at all in this.
What do you think, Oliver? Really quick.
Why?
No, why do you think they climb the trees?
To get away from
To get away from
things like
danger or the sun?
That's not a bad idea. That's pretty good, Oliver. So that's not a bad hypothesis. So they are evading predators. So we got 2 reasons. So it could be hyenas, could be leopards, could be, I don't know, other things, buffaloes, elephants. So they don't want to be hurt. So they go up the tree. Let's think 2 more options. Anybody in the class? Except
Anybody
Oliver.
think? What do you think? Someone hasn't spoken. Oscar, quick. What? What do you think?
I think that they go up into trees because maybe at nighttime so they can find a better place to sleep or something like that.
That's 3 reasons. That's a pretty good one. Okay, let's do 1 more reason. Anybody?
I thought that they should get out of the sunlight or something.
Aha, that's a good one. It's one of the better ones that I've heard. Those are all really good reasons, everybody. So, those are all really good reasons. And the main ones that I didn't actually think about some of those reasons, which is good. Now I kind of think. So nobody's actually got data on this. Nobody's actually got data information. No one's actually got scientific data points on why this is happening. So the three general sort of ideas that rangers are telling people there, and a lot of scientists are telling people there, is that yes, they are going up there because they sort of want to escape the flies. 2, that they want to use the height as a vantage point to hunt. And 3, that it's cooler. And the cooler idea is something that I've found. I was flicking through a National Geographic maybe, I don't know, a few months ago, and I actually found a picture of a koala in Australia, where I am right now, taken with a thermal camera, a camera that detects heat. And someone had taken a photo, and some scientists did some experiments, and they found that as you go higher in a tree, the koalas get cooler, and it's actually a few degrees cooler, so the temperature is lower higher up. And in really hot environments, this is a hot environment, this is on the equator. Uganda, that particular part of Uganda is on the equator, so super hot. That to me is the thing that makes the most sense. It's probably a little bit cooler, 1 or 2 degrees up in the branches of those trees. And that makes a lot of sense if the temperature is 35, 40 degrees Celsius, 95, 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the climbing, or we can jump on to the next question?
Yeah, I'm going to bring Mr. Patrick in. His grade 8s are joining him virtually. He's in London, Ontario.
Hi, Alex.
Patrick, how's it going?
Good, thank you. I have a question from Sammy. He's wondering, are locals ever attacked by the lions?
There was a man that was actually attacked in a place called Kazinga Fishing Village, and I actually interviewed this man. Very interesting story. Very interesting man. His name is Isaac Koza, and he actually wrestled a lioness that had ambushed him about 20 years ago as he was walking from the fishing village to, from his fishing activities. So the park has villages all over there's actually villages in the park. And a lot of their subsistence activity and sort of commercial activities actually fishing because they're these big lakes. And yeah, he got ambushed by a lioness. So it's very infrequent, but there have been attacks. Lions don't really see us as prey, but there are still a few places. Lions can see us as prey at night. Lions get very bold at night. They get very brave at night because their eyesight is about 8 times better than we can see during daytime. And I think the most important thing to note is in places like Tanzania, that is still, walking around at night in the bush is a very dangerous thing. But in this area, not many attacks on people.
All right, I'm going to bring in Mr. Londos, hanging out in Guelph, Ontario. He's got his class joining us virtually. How you doing, Mr. Londos? Oh, the mic, Mr. Londos.
You wouldn't believe how many times a day I do that teaching virtually. So I have a couple questions for you. Lucas from our class wants to know, you've observed lions. How do they communicate when they're hanging out, when they're hunting? What ways do they communicate with each other? Because I know they kind of do a team effort, right?
When they're hunting?
Yeah, or just any other other.
So yeah, it's a very good question, Mr. Londos. Lions have all big cats have got a variety of different communication cues. What separates the big cats, the Panthera genus, or the family, genus. Family is Felidae. Pantherinae, Panther genus. It's not mountain lions. It's snow leopards, lions, tigers, jaguars, African lions. I think that's it. Sorry. Anyway, voice box. Fusion in the voice box, meaning big roars, big reverberations that can be heard for several kilometers at a time. Snow leopards, tigers, you'll hear that. You'll hear that. So that's very, echoing off mountains, off treetops. Lions, you'll hear that, that big, deep, rumble, and that's this fused voice box that allows for audio, visual, sort of audio communication. So that's the first one. And that's important because, especially with lions, they're social, they live in groups, and they will listen. They can actually count. One pride of lions can count and hear how many lions are roaring across the river in another territory. Very important, audio. Scent, they urinate, they scent mark, they scratch trees, and there's glands even in the what they call the interdigital glands in between my fingers, in between their fingers, and when they scratch, they release some pheromones, and they're always sniffing. So smell, and then sight. They will also communicate by looking at each other, and just by looking for visual clues in terms of the tail and sort of body posturing. So those are the three things. But when they're hunting, not that much communication. They are just sort of, a lot of the times you might get some sort of split ambushing where one will sort of push them in one direction and another one will hit them from another end. But there's not really any vocal communication during hunts. Obviously, vocal communication is obviously also very important for cubs, mom calling to cubs and vice versa.
All right, great question from our crew, Mr. Londos. Mr. B, we're heading to Pennsylvania, third graders. How are we doing today?
Good.
We're doing good. Can you hear us?
We got
Loud and
you.
clear.
No audio?
No, we can hear you. We can hear you.
We hear you just fine. Yeah.
Excellent.
My question is, what do you want to study big cats?
I didn't hear that.
Made you want to see big to begin with?
Joe, can you hear? Sorry.
Yeah. What made you want to study big cats, Alex?
Yeah. Good one. Good question. So big cats. I was very lucky because, unlike a lot of universities around the world, which are in cities, the university where I studied as an undergraduate. So as soon as I finished high school, I went to university, and my first sort of year in that university had leopards that actually walked around the mountains and forests around the university. The university was actually in a forest. So that's sort of where the whole love for leopards was born. And on the weekends, I would actually be looking for leopards. I'd be looking for their droppings and their tracks, and so I think that's where the inspiration sort of came from. The reason why, I think, is because they are enigmatic, and I think they are an incredible symbol of what our culture as humans has sort of become. And, they're just incredible animals. And I think, I'd like to do my little, very small part in helping preserve that for the next generation. For my kids, if I ever have them, and their friends and all that. Yeah.
All right, and we're going to go to Cochrane, Ontario. Mr. Southward is representing his virtual crew. Mr. Southward, grab the mic.
Of course. Thanks. This has been great, Alex. Thank you. Rodney has a question. He wants to know what he can do in the ground level. Like, how can he protect endangered cats? How can he help in any way? What can we do? Yeah,
that's a very good question. I think one of the ways to do that is to to promote them on social media channels. If there are a lot of fundraising drives globally for big cats, and I think if there's some big cat that you really love, and you don't have to even donate money yourself, but you might want to share the links, or get together with a few friends and sort of fundraise for organizations that are saving big cats. And then also just by visiting the national parks in your part of the world, and paying entrance fees and getting a group of friends to come to the national park with you. Even if you don't see a big cat, just being there and actually physically going into the national park and supporting what they do, you are helping to save big cats. visiting national parks, at least in places like Africa and India, where there is a chronic shortage in funding, by visiting national parks and sort of engaging in safari, game drive, tours, and all sorts of things in the park. That is conservation. By visiting, you are doing conservation of big cats.
Yeah. So Alex, I want to grab a couple questions off YouTube before we wrap up today. One was, do they use the same tree? Is there, the same number of trees they kind of keep coming back to? And the other one was, other than, those lions in Uganda, are there other big cat species that utilize trees in a similar way, maybe tucking their young up there?
Very good question. And yes, they often like the same tree. Obviously, the most important thing to know with big cats is that they will sort of move from parts of their territory during certain periods. So I've literally been in a part in the north of the park where I will go to a particular park and I will particular part of the park, and I will literally find those lions in the same tree every day for 4 days. But then next week they could move 20 kilometers into the Congo, and then boom, you don't see them for a week. So in short, yes, they will sometimes use the same tree, but obviously because of the fact that the prey, the things that they eat, is aware of their presence, they have to move. They have to move every few days, every couple of weeks. Otherwise, everybody will just get used to their presence.
All right. Well, first of all, a huge shout out to the YouTube crew today. They were very active. Lots of great questions coming in. Thank you for tuning in live today. A shout out to all of our live classrooms in Canada and the US. Thank you for your great questions. And Alex, coming from Australia, thank you so much for getting up nice and early for us.
No, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for listening, and thank you for all the fantastic questions.
All right. Thanks again, everyone. We're going to sign off for today. Alex, good luck on your upcoming fieldwork.
Thank you so much. See you, everybody.